Good morning, everyone. It's really great to be here today and escape some of the cold that we have over on the East Coast in Maryland. It's great to see familiar faces and new faces, so I'm looking forward during the workshop to meet some people and catch up with people. So for those who weren't in the room when Dave introduced me, my name is Susie Strege. I work at Goddard Space Flight Center, and I'm leading the CFS product development there and also chairing the NASA-wide CCB. So this was a really awesome opportunity to share the releases. This presentation specifically focuses on the open source products and what the CCB has released in 2015, and then also share some of our current release plans for 2016. There's many ways to send a message in a bottle. Right now, when releases go out, there's one way to communicate those releases, and that's through, we have a mailing list. Actually, do we have a piece of chalk? It's CFS-community at lists.nasa.gov. So right now, when products are released, they're communicated on this list server. If anyone is interested in joining this list, come see me. We'd love to get you on here. Right now, this too is the means for people to post questions, share insights and feedback, and then we look forward to, as Dave mentioned, we have our new public website, and we're going to be transitioning some of the communication that's been happening, not depreciate this list, but have multiple means of communication. And then again, workshops like this being another form of communication. So the accomplishments and releases in 2015, Dave shared some history of the NASA-wide CCB. We really got up and running right at the start of 2015. And in 2015, it was when that CCB was first formulated, we had a workshop at the very end of 2014. And that's where all the NASA centers learned about all the enhancements and the wonderful things that were being done at each center. And so the goal in 2015 was to take all those pieces and put them together into a new set of core product releases. And those core products are the OSAL, the PSP, and the CFE. So some of the major enhancements that were put into, it was, Dave said CFE 6.4.2, I believe, but it's the latest CFE release is 6.5, and OSAL 4.2, and PSP 1.3.
The 6.4.2 was last year. That was like the
Yes.
thing. Yeah, sorry to confuse.
So focusing on the CFE, that does contain over 60 enhancements and bug fixes. It was the Lori Prokoff, who's sitting up here in the front. Her team did Class A efforts, and we rolled those changes into not just the CFE, the PSP, and the OSAL. A lot of those changes included enhancements to the unit tests. A big enhancement is making those unit tests assert-based, where we get pass-fail results in the unit test, which is a major change. Before, the users running the unit tests would have to scroll through a big output file to determine, did this thing pass or fail, and now the assert-based unit test all automate that and do it for you, and then point out exactly where the failures are. We also added 64-bit architecture to support. The folks at Glenn Research Center, they had their enhanced CMake build system, and we rolled that into this new set of releases. We also didn't want to depreciate the old, what we're calling the classic build system, and so all these releases now, the user has a choice on whether they want to move forward into the CMake build world or stay in their comfortable classic build. We also, at Goddard, we worked on the open source application suite. We released health and safety, stored command, housekeeping, and memory manager. And all of these releases, the really big enhancement with these were adding the new UT assert-based unit tests. So what went along with that is we also released open source for unit testing the applications, a UT assert-based library. And that is available on SourceForge. So this, I'm not going to go through this slide, but this was just highlighting what's in bold are the releases that went out in 2015, and then showing the latest version release of the other open source products. So CFE 6.6, now the CCB, we're moving forward. We're moving forward with working on the next release of the CFE. This is going to, the major enhancements with this release are App ID namespace expansion. And Jonathan is going to talk a little bit more about that in the workshop. We also are going to be incorporating electronic data sheets, and this will help synchronize our command and telemetry from flight to ground. There'll be one electronic data sheet or data dictionary that defines the command and the telemetry on both the flight and the ground side, and any tools that may need to utilize command and telemetry definitions. We also have some, it's not complete shared memory support, but we're adding in, there's a few things that I guess taking baby steps to move toward the SMP support, and that's all going into this release. So we have, right now we've identified over 35 tickets. Our schedule is roughly here, where we're scheduled to have this out at the end of June. Our ticket reviews, some of these, especially the electronic data sheets and the App ID namespace expansion, are going to tickle into the requirements. These are some major design changes, so these ticket reviews that are currently ongoing include reviews of the requirements, reviews of the design, and then the CCB, every single line of code that's changed gets reviewed. On the application side, our release schedule, in order, we have limit checker coming out, file manager, checksum, memory dwell, and data storage, and they're in pretty close succession. We hope to have all those out by March 2017, and then to follow, we're looking at the scheduler and possibly the CFDP application.
Susie, in your previous slide, is that 2017 or 2016? This is done or working on?
This is working on, so, right, yes, this is 2017. Okay. Yes, so CFE 6.6 will be out end of June 2017. The application suite, again, these applications, the very big enhancement are these new UT assert-based unit tests. And then some of them, it's file manager, we're adding a new command to be able to set file permissions, checksum has a few new configurations and some requirement updates. But most of the changes are just some minor bug fixes, and then again adding these UT assert-based unit tests, which we'll be learning about more of later in the workshop.
Susie, you have another question?
Yeah, yeah.
Does it include LCX?
This is LCX. So the LC is being depreciated and replaced with LCX.
Okay.
And so LCX really won't, most people know it as LC, so I think the X is going to go away, and then the old LC is replaced with the new LCX.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I think that's all I have. Yeah, I have a couple backup charts. I have a backup chart that if anyone doesn't know where to get these open source products, they're all available on SourceForge. I have a backup slide that gives the URLs. You can also, we have, it's cfs.gsfc.nasa.gov is Goddard's CFS, I guess, public website, and the URLs are posted there where you can get these products. Also, you're free to use the website or the email list. And again, anyone who's interested, come see me, and I'll get you hooked up. Yes?
So last year when we were at the workshop, you were looking at a schedule to release CFS in January, then February, and finally over the summer. How confident are you in the schedule you put up there? Is that based on internal funding, you're going to hit that, or were you really delayed by just the process of going through the open source release? The projects
Yes,
were done, and it was really a delay in getting it released open source.
Well, the 2015, what I presented last year, we had a very aggressive schedule, and we were trying to get things out before the holiday. It was like around Christmas time, which was unrealistic. And we did have a lot more to review than what we initially thought. But we did get releases out shortly after the holidays. So we were behind schedule, we weren't too far behind. And this schedule was drawn up based upon how we completed and reviewed things last year, which was as a working CCB across multiple NASA centers. That was our first set of releases to come out. So it was my first time too working in a distributed team across multiple centers.
Susie, I want to add to that. It's not the release process for open source that delayed it. It's just getting all the work done.
Right.
If we don't go to 7 CFS, we sort of grandfather in under the open source agreements we already have, or open source release we have. So 6.6, it's going to go to 6.9.9.9.9.
Right. Well, we did, as a CCB, we defined what these major, minor, and revision numbers mean, and we need to get that out and clearly communicate that. So if we did have major API changes, we would very much need to consider upping that major version number, which would require us to painstakingly go through the whole open source release process again. But if we did have major API changes that affected compatibility, and we would want to communicate that by changing the major version number. But by adding enhancements and bug fixes, we feel very comfortable staying with the minor and revision numbers. So the plans now, and then the plan for this upcoming year, we're moving to 6.6, going from 6.5 to 6.6.
You know, maybe a follow-up, is there, are you guys measuring when you're able to release products internal to NASA on the server versus getting to people outside of NASA?
We're not measuring that. I don't know if Mike Aguilar were here. One of the things for inside NASA, there's a change in the NPR that's in signature right now, where you can share anything with anybody within NASA without having any user agreements, which makes sense. It's already been paid for. We should be able to freely distribute it. For what goes out is really just the process to get out to the open source website. So just going through the legwork. There's no legal issues there. If we do write a new app, new apps do have to go through that process. So some of the new apps we might be talking about here, like we have a file transfer app. And the reason for that is you have to make sure that nobody's stolen any code, so the lawyers do need to get involved and release something to make sure there's no legal issues with licensing. Oh, I should have had that. It's too late now. We'll have to sterilize this after we're done. So, yeah. So whatever I just said. Sorry. Yeah, I don't want to hold this up too much, but.
No, this is great. We really want to make this interactive. We don't want to stand up here and present something to you. We want your questions, feedback, ideas. So I'd say the more, this was wonderful. I love the question. Yeah.
Well,
That's okay, I can talk.
We'll keep people online. Okay, got it. People online,
Sort of related to the last question. So based on what you were saying, it sounds like there probably isn't going to be, for like major updates to the APIs or anything like that. Does that sort of process for release prohibit any sort of preview functionality for any major changes? Like if there are updates to like major API updates, is there any way for the community to preview those changes, or is that sort of blocked by that release process?
That's a good question. We do have, internal to the CCB, we now share a repository, and we have what are called technology branches. So folks inside of NASA, before things are released or even talked about, there's ways for people to get into our Git repository and look at ideas that people have or changes that are possibly to come. But outside of that, this has not come up before. So yeah, we're open to ideas and how we can get things like that shared. Even information like this on what the NASA CCB is planning for the next release, not waiting necessarily to have a workshop like this, or for the folks that aren't able to participate in the workshop but are actively using the CFS, they're missing out on this information.
I guess that said, it is possible if it's a NASA related activity or project or a CubeSat or something like that, we have a NASA sponsor, then you can sign an SUA and then have access to everything. Right.
Yeah.
But if you're totally independent with no relationship to the federal government, then they'd have to go through the open source process.
Yeah, a thought too that I'm having, Dave mentioned this new public website, and I'm really excited about that because I think this is a big answer to some of these things and how people can get insight to what's going on. People on the outside can start sharing ideas. Well, hey, if you're going to add this, would you consider adding, if you're going to add X, consider adding Y. And so we might not necessarily be able to share the source code as it's being developed and written until it gets released, but we can certainly share thoughts and ideas and designs.
And actually, I want to follow up. I think I'm 2 questions behind, but I didn't want to change perception. We're not. I mean, our technology branches, but we're still working. Like our internal projects are all working off the same public release, or they have the option to. maybe I misread the question, but I thought there seemed to be an implied of, oh, it's NASA working over here. But I mean, there's development branches, but they are, so our Goddard missions are just working off the same 6.5 release that other people are working off of. Just,
I just wanted to say back to this question here. I don't know who all's here and what organizations you're representing, but if you're not working on a NASA project, it's not difficult to get a Space Act agreement. If money is not changing hands, that gets difficult when money changes hands. But no money, it's maybe a couple hours of work to write up a Space Act agreement where we exchange software and you contribute to the code and work collaboratively with your NASA counterpart. So I recommend that.
Yeah.
Center have you worked
I'm Chris Knight from NASA Ames Research Center.
Because Ames just seems to be the easier one.
That's true. Come,
Go,
Yeah.
Chris.
go north. Go north about 5 hours. I drove down here. It's not too bad.
Sometimes we have difficulties.
Yeah, we also have this, through the legal process, something called a contributor license agreement. So for folks on the outside that have these great enhancements and things that they want to share back, and I have this great tool that I want to share and add it to the next release of the CFE, we can fill out this contributor license agreement and make that all legalized as well. Yes.
So I'm fairly new here, so if the answer to my question seems really obvious, then please forgive me. But I'm wondering what ITAR-related issues have you had to deal with making these open source releases?
Well, that's what makes that process take so long, is the lawyers have to go through and comb through this code and make sure that we're not violating, we, the releasers, the folks releasing the software, will check boxes saying, no, this doesn't, there's no ITAR related code in here, something that's going to blow up the world. But then the lawyers have to go in and double check, and that's why that open source release process takes so long. So again, that's where, unless we're adding significant new requirements or changing APIs, we don't have to go through that process again and update our major version number. We're just adding bug fixes and enhancements to what has already been blessed by.
and a side
I
note
hope
to
that answers your question.
A side note is that's why command ingest and telemetry output, which are two apps that communicate with the ground, we couldn't release those in the initial suite. So.
But in our application technology section, we're going to learn about how those two apps were genericized and hopefully in the near future will be made available to the public in our open source release library.
Yeah, those are right now going through the open source review. Sorry. I was gonna say, yeah, those are, is this on? Yeah, okay. Yeah, those are right now going through the open source review. And so it's interesting, I'd like to hear, so I've been going through at Johnson the process of open sourcing, and I have various stages of where they are. And I want to go back to the first guy. I think he was concerned that the public release lags the NASA release. And I think what I saw is there was really no lag. It was like a couple of weeks or something. Do you know exactly how long it took? Like when we did the release this year, it was out open source, I thought, very shortly after. How long was that?
At Goddard, it seems to be the other way. Before we can release it open source, you have to go through the new technology reporting and get it assigned a new technology number. And once you do that, it can go out under government release only. And then following that, then we go through our open source release. And so I found the new technology reporting system moves through fairly quickly, and it's the open source for us. But it must be different from center to center.
No, that's the same process. But
Okay.
what I'm saying is the release this year, how long was it between when it was released on the NASA server and then SourceForge? Because we didn't go through it was like just an update, right?
A couple days.
It was a couple
Right,
days,
right.
right? So
That's
this is
what
what
I
I
was
was
trying
trying
to
to tell
say.
the guy. You don't
Right.
have to wait 6 months. When it's these little releases, the SourceForge was really in sync with what NASA was using. It wasn't a big
Right.
lag. Right.
Yes.
I just, I wanted to
That's
get
what I
that,
was
I wanted to get that across.
Yeah, there's not an internal versus external world,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There is from a communication, I agree. I mean, it's been brought up, right, in trouble
For
tickets.
new things, there's a time, but once it's out, I don't think it's
Oh,
much.
yeah, one follow-up, sorry. One follow-up to that, Susie might have it, there's a open source website that just got stood up, I don't know, a couple days ago, actually. And on there, we were gonna put plans and where we're going and what technologies we're infusing and stuff like that. So, it does have a forum associated with it, so people can actually comment and say, yeah, that's something we're really interested in, is there anything we can do to help? And sort of get it moving that way, because there's a lot of technologies out there that we're pushing forward. And if you don't know about them, you're gonna recreate the wheel, so to speak. So we want to get that information out. And there's, other than the ITAR issue, which most of the stuff is not ITAR. It's only when you get into the crypto and certain maybe specific hardware interfaces or something like that where you potentially get into ITAR issues. But, this is a generic framework. So SMP support is not ITAR. Those kind of things are not going to be affected by that. So we want to encourage people to use this website and give us feedback and what kind of technologies they want to see, and then we'll see how to get people involved.
Although the comment on that is, we think it's not ITAR, but it's convincing the lawyers that it's not ITAR. I mean, seriously, it's.
I was wondering if you have a release date planned for the genericized CI and TO?
So it is I'll talk about it a little later today,
Yeah.
but it is currently available for government purpose use under SUA. I was actually just bringing up the website on my on my laptop so that I could write it or put it in my presentation, but it's at software.nasa.gov. You can do a search, and you can search for generic command and telemetry, and you can get this right now by SUA, and it's in the process of open source review. So this is one of the ones where, ITAR export control comes into play. So, but, we're going through the process to see where it ends up. But government use, I think the release is called U.S. government purposes or something like that. So it's pretty open, but you have to do a request.
And there's several. They have these
Yeah.
hierarchies of the world.
Yeah.
And then there's one that's above that, and then open source or something. There's layers.
Yeah.
And each one has more and more bureaucracy.
Any other questions before we move on? Well, thanks for participating, everyone. This is wonderful.